What up, y'all? It's your boy Shane G here with a special edition of Politics as Usual, right here on the Ethos Media Network. I know that a lot of the videos that have been coming out as far as on politics have been a little bit more general as of late. They've been more, speaking about broader topics that have been, sort of being discussed in the media. And I just wanted to give a proper breakdown on those topics. So definitely go back and watch those videos, talking about oligarchy, talking about fascism, different things like that. Things that you're hearing a lot of now that Donald Trump is the president. And people are wondering what these words mean if you don't hear them on a regular basis or if you don't necessarily follow politics that closely. Hopefully those videos can provide you a proper breakdown and, provide a little bit of insight as to why so many people are freaking out right now. And, we have justified reasons to be freaking out. We're going to watch a video right now. Shout out to Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk and from the Crystal and Kyle and Friends show. Definitely, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've heard of him already. I don't need to give him any shout outs or anything, as far as go subscribe. You're probably already subscribed to him if you watch me. But he just dropped this video last night. I want to react to it because he does very, very good breakdowns, and his memory is incredible as far as like being able to rattle off all of the different things that, a particular politician has done. So I'm going to let this video play. We're going to stop. We're going to react to it. And let's see what's going on in Los Angeles right now and what Trump's up to.
Major emergency breaking news here for you. This really is a colossal deal here. It's official. The Trump regime is invoking the Insurrection Act, declaring martial law, and taking the California National Guard over from Gavin Newsom. And
so I just want to explain what that means really quick. Basically, the Insurrection Act allows the president to use the military domestically. So domestically meaning within the country, not internationally, like using the military against other countries like we normally do. The Insurrection Act would allow the United States government to use the military essentially against its own citizens. The reason for this obviously is because mass protests have been going on, and Trump doesn't like that. So he's going to say everyone's being violent. He's going to say that these are, violent protests that are getting out of control and the police can't handle it. And that's why he has to invoke the Insurrection Act. So that's his claim. But I just want, again, everybody to know what that means. That means that he's going to be using the United States military against the citizens of the United States. Well, that's his plan. I don't know if it goes that way. Who does he think the military is related to? Who does he think their family members are? It's us. Who do you think the military, the soldiers would turn on first? American citizens? Or do you think that they would coup the president first? I don't know. These are just questions I have. I don't think his plan goes the way he thinks, but let's see what Kyle has to say about it.
Deploying them in Los Angeles. So he came out and said the following. If Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem, riots and looters, the way it should be solved.
So there you go. He wants to squash protests. This is, when everybody used to call him a dictator and compare him to Hitler and all that type of stuff, I definitely used to think it was too far. You can talk about how evil somebody is and all the wrong that they're doing without bringing up Hitler's name, because Hitler's sort of a one-on-one, a one of one. However, in recent times, I've changed my position on that. Not because he's as evil as Hitler in the sense of the amount of murder and doing a Holocaust and things like that. But the playbook is very similar. All of the things that led to the rise of Hitler and allowed him to take all of the power that he actually took is a very similar playbook that Donald Trump is playing. So that has actually kind of changed my mind on whether he wants to be a dictator or not. You know, I used to not really buy into that. I'd be like, look, I don't like the guy either, but that's too far. Doing stuff like this because you don't like protesting, which is a First Amendment free speech right. You know what I mean? Like, we have the right to peaceful protests. Now, he's saying that they're not peaceful protests. I don't know that to be true. I don't live in Los Angeles. I haven't heard any reporting of anything being burned down or people getting beat up or anything like that. I know plenty of people in LA County, in San Diego, all up and through Southern California. I'm very well, you know, I know a lot of people out there. I haven't heard nothing about any of this. Now, during the Black Lives Matter protests, I did hear that. Not as much as they were making it seem, but you did hear of the stories at least. This time, I've heard none of that shit coming out of LA. I've heard nothing but peaceful protests have been coming out of LA. So that leads me to believe that Trump just doesn't like when people disagree with him. That's all this sounds like to me. It's just a power play. It's a control play. This is something that dictators do. They make you fearful to speak out against them. And then that allows them to continue doing whatever they want to do.
So what he's doing is hinting there to something he said in the past. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. He said that multiple times. This is him. It's a wink and a nod to that. It's a not so subtle threat that some people might get killed. And he's doing this because now we have, I believe it's the second day of anti-ICE protests currently happening in Los Angeles. By the way, at the same time, there's also some anti-ICE protests that just broke out in New York. So Gavin Newsom came out and responded to this. He said, the federal government is moving to take over the California National Guard and deploy 2,000 soldiers. That move is purposefully inflammatory and will only escalate tensions. LA authorities are able to access law enforcement assistance at a moment's notice. We are in close coordination with the city and county, and there is currently no unmet need. The Guard has been admirably serving LA throughout recovery. This is the wrong mission and will erode public trust.
100%. He's totally right. Gavin Newsom is totally right when he says that because, again, if Gavin is saying there haven't been any problems with the protests, you just don't like the fact that they're protesting ICE. Because ICE's mission is to deport 1,700 people a day, I believe. Not 17. Notice what I said. 1,700 people a day. Not 1,700 criminals. Not 1,700 illegal immigrants. Not even 1,700 immigrants. 1,700 people. So who do you think they're rounding up when they run out of criminals? There weren't that many criminals to lock up and deport. They got rid of all of them in like the first week or two. But when the propaganda is the entire reason that your life is horrible is because of immigrants and trans people, people will figure that out real quick once you deport all of these immigrants and their life isn't getting better. They're going to say, oh, okay, well, maybe that wasn't the problem. You can't just get rid of the criminals in the first 2 weeks and then be like, all right, we did it. And then nothing else changes. So you have to keep going. You have to keep the propaganda going and saying, no, there's so many criminals out there that we have to continue getting rid of all of them. And, you know, until we're able to accomplish that, you know, we're not going to be able to fix the country and make America great again. That's the whole play. So the idea here, because again, Gavin Newsom is saying we're not having any problems here. There's nothing going on here that we can't handle ourselves. So again, that makes me feel that Trump is just wanting to do this, one, because it's a power move. It's a flex to say, hey, California, I run California now. Doesn't matter who you elect to be the leader of California, in this case, Gavin Newsom. No, I run California. Me and my people, we're going to come take over. So it's a power move. It's an ego move. And again, it's straight out of the dictator playbook. You know what I mean? So I think this is very intentional, what Gavin Newsom is saying when he says that it's going to escalate tensions. That's 100% true. Because what's the number one way to piss somebody off, right? Just human psychology. Like, if you walk up to somebody and go, why are you mad? Why are you so mad? You're mad. Why are you mad? Ooh, you mad. What you mad for? A person that's not mad is eventually going to get mad because you pushed them to that point. It's the same thing with this. If we're all out here peacefully protesting, we're not vandalizing shit, we're not destroying buildings, we're not setting shit on fire, we're not beating up cops, we're not doing none of that. We're out here peacefully protesting ICE. And what are they going to do to get to whoever they're trying to get to and deport? They're going to have to start getting physical with those citizens, right? Well, what happens typically when you get physical with somebody? Typically they defend themselves. Now we have a bunch of cases of, oh, people are fighting the police. Oh, now we got to lock these people up. Now it provides the justification for what he wanted to do in the first place. It's almost like the Republican playbook of saying government doesn't work, guys. Like, the government, it needs to be so small because it doesn't work. It's inefficient. It's blah, 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 blah. And then when they get in office, they cut all these programs and they cut everything that makes the government work just to prove the initial point that the government doesn't work. You see what I'm saying? You see the game? It's like if I say, yo, this vape is broken, and you're like, no, it's not. And then I break the vape and then hand it back to you and say, see, this vape is broken. That's essentially what Republicans do with government. They have an idea and then they do everything to make sure that that idea comes to fruition. It's not that they want the government to be efficient. They want it to be inefficient so that they can say, see, this is why the government's bad. That's the whole idea. So it's sort of the same idea here with what Trump's doing with the Insurrection Act. Oh, these protests are out of control. No, they're not. Well, let me send some people in that are definitely going to aggravate the situation. So then when some shit happens, I can point and say, see, I told you these protests were out of control. That's the game.
So this is Gavin Newsom sending out a warning saying, look, you think you're going to invoke the Insurrection Act and basically ban even peaceful protests, and you think that's going to end well. That is not going to end well. What's going to happen is the protesters will become emboldened. There will be more people out there. Yep. It will become more violent.
100%.
People are not going to go silently into the night and fold, especially since what has ICE been doing? We've all seen it. We've reported on it endlessly on this channel. ICE is effectively Trump's Gestapo. So right now, they're doing all these raids throughout Los Angeles. They're in full military gear, and they're covering their faces.
Why? If what you're doing is on the up and up, like when a cop comes, when I see police, and I don't fuck with police, but when I see police outside, right? Or if I see somebody, like I live in an apartment complex, so let's say a police officer or a group of police officers are knocking on somebody's door to serve them, a warrant or whatever, right? They don't have their faces covered. Their faces are very visible. Their badge numbers are out. Whether or not they're using their body cam is always up for debate, but their badge number is visible. Their name is on, I'm pretty sure it's on the badge as well. Officer, whatever. So all that's visible. We can identify you, and your face isn't covered because what you're doing is supposed to be on the up and up, right? This is a legal warrant. We're coming to arrest this person because they have a court date and they missed it or whatever the case may be, right? So if what you're doing is on the up and up, why cover yourself? It's probably because what you're doing isn't on the up and up. That would be my guess. My guess would be, oh, what we're doing is very much illegal, so we have to hide what we're doing. Because the thing is, you can't arrest the president, but you can arrest the people under him. So if we knew who the individual ICE agents were who were carrying out these illegal acts, they could go to prison or jail or whatever, the punishment would be for that. They could face punishment, though, whereas Trump won't. So they probably know that. And they're like, all right, well, I got to make sure that I don't go to jail for doing some shit that my boss essentially told me to do. Why would you want to be an ICE agent right now anyway? Like, I don't understand that. I don't even understand the desire to want to be unless you're a racist. At this point, you know it's not about protecting the border. Again, we got rid of all the criminal illegal immigrants already. They're gone. They were gone within the first month of the administration. We're in June now. This is 6 months later, just about. So you can't tell me it's for that, because that's been accomplished. All the criminal illegal immigrants are gone. So why else would you want to be an ICE agent right now? You probably just don't like Mexican people. Like, let's be real. I don't understand what other justification you could possibly have for it at this point. On June 8th, 2025, I don't know what other justification you could have for it. All of the criminal, illegal immigrants are gone. They were gone in the first month.
By the way, why are they covering their faces? Because they know that they're violating the law on a regular basis. They know they're not following the proper process and procedure. They know a lot of these people they're going after are innocent. In fact, you had ICE officers literally waiting outside of courtrooms. And then an immigration judge would dismiss a case for a certain immigrant. The second that immigrant walked out into the hallway, boom, they got rounded up, they got kidnapped, they got abducted, and they're getting locked up. So...
And then they're being sent to places that they're not even from. They're sending Colombians and Mexicans and Argentinian immigrants and all of this to El Salvador, to that prison, which is really a death camp. And you're wondering why people are fighting back. Like, it'd be a little bit different if you were deporting people at least to their country of origin. At minimum, do that. Like, they're not even trying. They're sending people. And look up the Google images of this place. I want you guys to do it yourself, and you tell me what you see. Look up the aerial shots of the El Salvadorian prison that they've been locking everybody up in. Just check it out yourself. Leave it in the comments. Tell me what you see. I know what I see looks very concentration campish. Looks very 1940 Germany. Looks very, you know what I mean? That's what it looks like to me. The people don't look the same. They look like they're in the same condition, though. I'll leave it there. I want y'all to go look up those pictures yourselves.
The reason the ICE officers are in full military gear and are covering their faces is because they know what they're doing is wildly illegal. They know it wouldn't actually hold up in a court of law. So the people of LA are fucking sick of it. They're fed up. How many families have they seen ripped apart? How many communities have been ruined? How many good, hardworking people have had their lives destroyed because Stephen Miller's psychotic ass, his fascist Nazi psychotic ass, decided we need to do minimum 1,200 deportations a day. Well, in order to get to that number, you all know this.
Okay, so I got the number wrong. It wasn't 1,700, it was 1,200. But regardless, the point is the same. All the criminals were gone very early. Now they're just deporting brown people.
We were through the undocumented immigrant violent criminals within the first, week. Now, you're just rounding up innocent people, hardworking people, grandmothers, people who were seeking asylum. They've deported kids. They've deported American citizen children, one 2-year-old, one 4-year-old, one 6-year-old. The 4-year-old had cancer and was deported without medicine. So ICE is effectively acting as Trump's Gestapo, and it looks like the public snapped. And they said, you know what, enough. So one of the things that happened is you had these anti-ICE protesters surround the ICE building where they were detaining a lot of these innocent people. And they're basically forming a human chain around it and saying fucking free them right now, bitch. Free them right now. And so I should also point out
That's nonviolent, by the way. That's nonviolent. They're not attacking ICE officers. They're not saying, hey, you're not allowed to leave or nothing like that. They're forming a human chain, probably chanting, probably, you know what I mean? Again, nothing violent is going on. So there's no justification for the Insurrection Act at this point.
Been some scuffles in the streets already. You have the ICE officers have been shooting smoke grenades at people and using non-lethal rounds and lighting up people left and right. So like I said, there's that going on in LA. There's also some anti-ICE protests currently happening in New York. My guess is this is going to spread. This is going to spread. I think
it's going to be here in Arizona real soon too. You know, what I notice is the streets of Arizona follow California's lead. People in Phoenix may not like to hear that, but it's true. From everything I've noticed, you know, I've been out here 13 years. You know, I've been in professional settings, I've been in street settings, I've been around members, I've been around all of that. And from what I can gather, not everybody, but a lot of the street element in Phoenix is tied very closely to LA. So what I will say is I've noticed, and I've talked to some people out there, and they've seen the same. It seems like a lot of this is making the streets come together to a degree. You know, you got Bloods, you got Pyrus, you got Crips, you got Hoovers, you got Serranos, you got Norteños, all tying flags together and joining in with these protests and not banging on each other. You know what I mean? They're banging on the real enemy now, which is ICE, which is the Trump administration. Because, again, you got to remember, all these gang members, they all have family and they all have friends that they're super protective of and that they're willing to crash out over. So the fact that it's in the two very big Hispanic hubs of the United States, New York, LA, I would imagine we're going to start seeing similar things in Texas. I would imagine here in Arizona, we're going to start seeing certain things, possibly Nevada, New Mexico, Florida. There's a lot of places with high Hispanic populations, and we're related to these people. You know what I mean? These people are marrying into our families. These people are having children with our cousins. These people are having children with our brothers. You know what I mean? Like, they're integrating into our families. So if you think that a bunch of street dudes from LA or New York or Detroit, shout out Southwest Detroit, or Houston or Dallas, Fort Worth, or Phoenix, Maryville, 43rd, Thomas, 12th Street and Southern. Like, if you think these areas are just gonna sit back while all of this is going on, you're very, very, very sadly mistaken. And I know that from being outside during protests, during COVID, during Black Lives Matter protests, we had to stop a couple of the homies from crashing out on racist antagonizers who were, you know, pulling up in their cars next to where we were marching and shouting racist stuff, you know, through their blowhorns at us. You know what I mean? Like, we knew the play, and some of the younger guys who weren't necessarily as well versed in politics, in protesting, how it all kind of works, what the strategies are, all of that type of stuff. They just heard racism and were ready to crash out. I love that energy, but you have to know where you're at. You know what I mean? So luckily we were able to, you know, pull a couple of the younger homies out of some situations that they probably would have went to jail for. But again, their heart's in the right place. We're not always going to be there to stop the young homies, though. So I need y'all being the people who are in power, you know what I mean, to understand what you're doing when you invoke the Insurrection Act, when you're trying to protest everybody, or I'm sorry, when you're trying to deport, you know, pretty much everybody who's brown, who has tattoos, you know what I mean? Even recently, an article popped up on my phone where they're bringing back I can't think of his name right now, but Garcia Guy's last name is Garcia. He was deported. They said he was a member of Trente Agua, or whatever the name of the gang is. Trente Agua. I'm sure that's not right. Water. I don't think that's right. Whatever the gang, but not MS-13, but the other one that they've been, invoking in the news lately. They said he was a member of that gang. Clearly he's not. He had like mom tattoos and shit. So here's the thing. They're bringing him back to quote unquote face his criminal charges, whatever those are. And Trump was asked about it and he says, oh, that wasn't my decision. So if it's up to Trump, this potentially innocent dude would have still just been locked up in that El Salvadorian prison just because he didn't want to admit he was wrong. Like they admitted multiple times that that was a mistake deportation, they being the White House. They were like, yeah, that should have never happened. That was our bad, actually. Like, and then the Supreme Court was like, hey, y'all got to get him back. Or you have to try to get him back. You have to actually put in effort to get him back. And now Trump's saying, hey, that wasn't even my decision to bring him back. So he's against this decision. He's against due process. He's against people having their day in court, being heard, and deciding whether or not they're actually innocent or guilty of the crime that they're being accused of. He is against that process. That one simple statement says that. So let's close out.
Gavin Newsom is right when he says, look, you think this is going to, oh, Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. Invoke Martial Law, Insurrection Act, I'm going full dictator. By the way, the same fucking, we're only, 7 days away from Trump having his fascist military parade where they're literally rolling tanks into D.C. right now as we speak.
What other president did shit like that? Had tanks and a self-aggrandizing parade. For what? Just to flex power. Like, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. This is a power flex. This is, look how strong I am, and look at what I can do. I got them all here in D.C. What happens if I send all these people to L.A.? What happens if I send these people to New York? That's what this is.
What do you think of the optics of this? Going to a fucking total tin pot dictatorship, banana republic style like that.
Banana Republican is a good Freudian salute.
Like, think about what's going on, bro. So, this is bad.
That's it. That's it. That's all we really need to know. This is bad. Yeah, man. This is bad. This is not good. So I just wanted to make sure to drop a video on this just in the event, any of the people who subscribe to Ethos are not aware of what's going on in the streets in LA, in New York, and probably spread throughout the country. Donald Trump has invoked the Insurrection Act, which, again, just so we're clear, means that the military would be deployed against the United States citizens. And people aren't having it. People are protesting. People are fighting back. And I think if they don't reverse course, this gets a lot uglier before it gets better. Until next time, this is your boy Shane G. This is the Ethos Media Network. This has been Politics as Usual. Please make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe. And, share this video for everybody who needs to actually know what this means and what it could mean for them. Until next time. Peace.